How rude. The sounds of It's a Gas there, which appeared on a record that was distributed with copies of Mad magazine in 1963. Its publisher, DC Comics, has announced that it will discontinue the legendary satire magazine from next month. In a moment, I'll discuss Mad's legacy with James Hyman from HYMAG, the world's largest collection of magazines. But first, here's Monocle's Robert Bound.
So, after 67 years, Mad magazine's August issue will be its last guffaw. From then on, only best-of editions of old material will be published. This bad taste exemplar of the seamy side of the American dream, the rust on the Chevy's tail fin, the severed finger in the ice cream sundae, has penned its final pun, and poor little Alfred E. Newman, that Rockwell gone wrong all-American brat of a cover star, has grinned his gap-toothed last. It's the done thing to say that it's the end of an era, that it's another piece of print sucked into the vacuum of the digital black hole, but it's also true. Mad made the running in the mid-1950s when the waspish asides of college radio nerd jocks was king. Surely Howard Stern would listen with interest. Mad would then inherit a mock your elders editorial ethic from the British satire boom of the 1960s and add extra teenage sickness. Saturday Night Live would have been dead without Mad's formative buffoonery, while the title's commercial policy lived up to its name. They sold no ads for 44 years, lest taking money from the corporations they lampooned might seem hypocritical. Whether it was a kids' magazine read by adults or an adults' magazine read by children, we'll never agree on. But we can say that its influence outgunned its circulation, although it did sell over 2 million copies in the mid-1970s. So we raise a middle finger in salute. That April 1974 cover was Mad's offensive apogee, after all. For Monocle, I'm Robert Bound.
Thank you very much to Rob. Well, I'm joined now by James Hyman from HYMAG. Rob, what will Mad's legacy be?
I think I would echo what Al Yankovic said on Twitter yesterday or the day before. Well, actually, it must have been yesterday. He lamented the loss as one of the all-time greatest American institutions. And got to agree with that. Other sort of accolades and tributes. Kim Newman, the film critic, a Ravens leaving the Tower of London moment for America. It really was the most incredible American institution. Not just America, I mean, it went global.
What were the highlights from the publication for you over the years?
I loved it. I loved just all the contributors. I mean, it ruled, I guess, in the 60s and 70s, you had Al Jaffe, known for those fold-ins. I mean, that's something you'll never be able to do digitally. You know, at the back, it sort of aped the Playboy centerfold by you would fold in the back cover. I just loved all the Mort Drucker, Sergio Aragones, the parodies it would do of all the films and pop culture. There was so many. And one specific cartoon, I think it was my favourite cartoon, was this little kid who only had 5 cents to spend on a little firework, moody shopkeeper of this firework shop, and he throws his little firework in 4 panels. It created fantastic humour. So I loved it.
Is satire no longer relevant now that we seem to live it?
It's more relevant than ever. I mean, I think that's not an excuse for its demise. Maybe it just had its business all wrong. I think basically it struggled to find its identity in an increasingly satire-saturated world. Satire's all around us. You see it all day long in your feeds on Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram, whatever. You see satire around. So no, I think it's basically the business just went wrong. The brand struggled.
Because, of course, it wasn't taking advertising.
Correct. And I mean, that's a very interesting point. There's a good piece in David Margolik's New Yorker in the 2014 issue of the New Yorker where they talk about how, Mad took on not just the advert, it took on the smoking industry and the advertising industry, really lampooning it. The one, I must cite, a very, very controversial advert. There was a Hitler advert in March 1969. You'd never get away with this today. And the tagline on that advert is, in the 30s and 40s, we knocked off millions of people and filled countless cemeteries, Hitler declared. That's nothing. I want to talk about a really fantastic cemetery filler, cigarettes. So, yeah, it took no advertising. That doesn't help it as a business.
Yeah. Alfred E. Newman, he was, of course, the fictional MAG mascot. Tell us about him, because he appeared on almost all of the front covers.
Pretty much all of them, yeah. The smiling face of subversion. He had been floating around in iconography for decades, and it was picked up by, they debuted in 1954. I think it was a guy called Alfred Feldstein in 56. He basically wanted the look of a kid who had a devil mag care attitude, and he got adapted with the catchphrase, "What me worry." It was first, I think, cited prominently in the 1930s. I'm for Roosevelt. It was sort of used in a presidential campaign. Ironically, Trump even cited Alfred E. Newman when he was sort of slagging off the Democrat Pete Buttigieg by saying Alfred can't become president. So he'd been around. He debuted in 1954.
Yeah, gosh, that's a long time that he's been about. Is there anything on the market which could take its place?
Good question. No, I think there's just those fragments of satire all over the place. I personally think you could just rebrand it. The Face have done a very good job at rebranding itself. There's so many ways you could do it. Why not have a coffee table book of all those fold outs? I mean, it is carrying on. Apparently the covers, there'll be new covers every month, the package with the old content. It's a very, very good brand. I looked yesterday, 76,000 followers on Twitter. It's not bad. It could carry on as a brand. Lots of these, magazines have had their demise, but they carry on digitally, and they just be very niche in your physical production.
Yeah. As a magazine collector, presumably this will make previous issues of the mag really valuable.
Yes, indeed. I have a full run, proud to own the full run, and yes, it will.
James, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
indeed. Many thanks to James Hyman there from HYMAG. This is The Globalist. We'll check the day's business headlines with Louise Cooper next.